Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are continuing the Fysetc Venture XL build. As you can see, I already put some stuff on here. I have not been making the progress that I wanted to with doing these videos. It takes a little bit longer with the videos. So some, like the tool head and putting that in, the drag chains and such like that, I did off camera to try and make more progress. The tool head was a little bit complicated. It wasn't extremely hard, but knowing things about like the Fysetc Rapido, I wasn't sure if those two wires, because you have two heater wires and then you have two for the PT1000B. I wasn't sure like what happened with those. Luckily, LTX Design, he pulled through, and huge shout out to him. All the questions I have, he tries to answer them the best he can, and I super appreciate it. So, like I said, we have the tool head done. I was waiting on a couple things to do the build plates, and I have those over here, which I showed you in the previous video when I went over the plates. One thing I didn't cover is I am not going to be putting on the thermal insulation on the underside due to better recommendation and being able to move some of that air that's underneath there up top to kind of heat the chamber is one of the better ways of heating the chamber without an actual chamber heater, because you have the beds, they're already hot, and if you just circulate the air from underneath, you can certainly achieve the same thing. So here I have laid out, the springs that you can see, as well as the little plastic grommets that go there. Underneath that, I have the M3 T-nut, as well as there's little holes on the sides that take M3x6 and an M3 T-nut into the extrusion. So I had mounted those, put those in. I had also done the drag chains, which this drag chain right here on the X, it has two different cables that go through it, okay? The one is the LED that goes from this little box here back to the tool head, and then you also have the CAN cable, which is a black cable with kind of like an L for the head on the connector part that plugs into the tool head. So the CAN cable goes all the way back to the main control panel, but then the LED only goes from the tool head to this. So on the X, you have the LED and the CAN cable going back to the tool head. And on this one here, on the Y, you have the CAN cable going up and through with nothing else really needing to be run through there. Because these right here, I did not wire in a previous video. I still haven't wired them. I'm actually going to be doing that after I do the beds and get all the wiring back to over there. The only two that need to go down a drag chain when it comes to the motors are the A and B. The A and B back there are going to go down to the Z drag chain, which is mounted right back here. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started mounting the beds, and I'll show you kind of what I did. So this right here looks very familiar in my last video. I got the thermal paste. I used Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut or something like that. The one thing I did like that I believe I mentioned in the previous video is when you put this on, there's only one way it can go. This one here is connected to here, and it's only so long. This one will not work to plug this in. So it's kind of dummy proof in that sense. One thing I also did was I labeled those. I put A, B, C, D on them. So I have to look at the instructions, which I'll pull up here in a second, and figure out which one's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we get the ground wire to that back portion over there that goes into the panel, okay? So I'm gonna set this here. The screws for the bed, they are M3x30 socket head cap screws, okay? And now I will pull up, grab my iPad and pull up the instructions. And when it comes to the tool head, so I did not do that. I did not finish the remainder of it on stream, like the connections and everything. The cartographer, Eddy probe, whatever this is called underneath. What I did was I went to the Boron manual. At first I started out with the Armored Turtle. They have a Filomatrix manual that kind of has like nice 3D. And I guess you could really use either or, but the Boron manual really is much better. It does have a lot more like little tips and tricks type thing, like, oh, watch for this and, you know, do this if you run into this. And, you know, just a lot of information that was very pertinent and helpful. So we'll pull up the pattern components here. And I think it's kind of interesting that it shows A, B, C, D, but then that would put the last one going that way. So I think what I'm going to do is A, B, C, D, and then the ground goes out that little black hole that you can see right there. So I think I think that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to go A, B, C, D, and then the ground can go out that way. So that A plate that I have currently set up in here, I'm going to move that to this side and then send it out that way. All these other cables, okay, these go into the main control panel. They have one little plug here that are marked TE01, 2, 3, and 4. Then you have these that go into a little splitter that's going to be mounted in the extrusion on the underside. And this right here is going to be mounted on that electrical box thing that's underneath, that it has a special connection for it. Forgive me that I don't know what the name of that special box thing is, but this has a connector that's specific for that it pushes onto it. I believe it's mainly like the power source for it. It just regulates it and keeps it in play, but not too sure. But this is very unique because it only has those on it. Okay. So there's A, Now we'll get B. And I'm sure you're already thinking, he forgot the ground wires. Absolutely, I did forget the ground wires. Okay, so I will grab the M3x6. I believe those fix on with M3x6. Let's see. M3x8. Okay. So there is bed A. Now we'll get bed B. And we have a bad T-nut. So I'm gonna take this off. Or it's just sideways. Okay, the T-nut just turned sideways a little bit. So we're still in good shape here. Let's turn this back over and nice, now we're in business. So now we'll grab C. Okay. Now I'll get a couple of these. Not these. It's gotta go that way. I gotta turn this one because it's hitting. The little barrel part is hitting, so I gotta turn it sideways. Okay. Now we should be good. gonna leave these like this for now. I think I'm gonna end up going sending them that way around the screw, and then I'll probably have one go shoot back here on the inside of these. Yeah, you know what? Like actually, let's do this. Let's do this now before it becomes a problem. You know what? Are these different lengths? I thought I checked them before. I thought they were all the same length. Fine. Let's check these and make sure that they're not certain lengths. .4 feet. .4 feet. 4 feet. Okay, so they all seem to be 4 feet. I'm hoping that they left enough to get back to the panel, because it looks like it goes down through here, up through here, and then into the panel in here. So hopefully the bottom of the panel is right where they need to plug in. If it's at the top, I don't think that one's making it, because they all seem to be 4 feet in length. And the one I'm most concerned with, this one doesn't matter that much. But this one, I don't have another connector like that. So this one is important. Even this red one, like that corner one's gonna be cutting it close, because if I put this here and then it comes up, that's what I have to work with that one. Okay, so Let's hope that that's gonna be okay. Or I'm gonna have to flip those. I could just flip them. I could just flip them. I was kind of hoping that where I put the Fysetc on here, I was hoping that that was going to match up, like all be directly this way. But if I can't do that and it's not achievable, then it's not worth it. But I think, look at these. So these need to be 6s. Look at this, it's poking through. So in the manual it says use a M3x8. No, use an M3x6 because this is poking right through into the magnet, which I'm hoping doesn't cause problems. So they all gotta be up, they all gotta be removed anyways. So Fysetc, if you watch this video, change the mounting screws for the ground wire to 6 millimeters long. Because 8 millimeter goes through and pokes the bed. And there's a little bump there now. I hope that gets out of there once I put the new screw in. The ones with 2 connectors on there, it doesn't do it, it doesn't poke through as much, but it still pokes through. So just a little bit of work on the documentation and they could fix that up. Okay, I'm gonna reroute it because I want to make sure that I have enough cord going back there. So these two Fysetc symbols are going to be upside down. Because I'm going to go like this. To give me as much cord as I can possibly get. Which you're not even going to see that unless the build plate's removed, so it really doesn't even matter. Yeah, there we go. There it is. This is bed A. Yep. Okay. Okay. So now, and I'm hoping that that bulge comes out of there. Because if not, I'm gonna reach out to Fysetc, see if they can send me a new magnet. Because it says that in the manual that that's an M3x8. And it's definitely not an M3x8. I'm gonna have an extra T-nut sitting in there because I accidentally just knocked it back, and I'm not taking these panels off to find it, so I'm just gonna throw an extra T-nut in there. Now this should give me a little bit more room with those wires, so I like that. Trying to get these to match up with that little hole in the extrusion is a little bit tough. It's definitely, that's why I'm just taking my time with it and I'm not forcing anything. I just want to do it right and not have to worry about it. And something's going on with this T-nut here. I don't know why it's so hard to go in. Okay. Sometimes you just need a third hand. Alright. So if I would have looked at it, if I would have put the magnets on all upside down, they would have been fine. Now they're going to be all upside down when I go and use the unit, which is perfectly fine. It just won't say Fysetc the right way. Maybe I'll put a mirror back here so you can see it the right way. So we got A. We got B. We got C. And then we'll have D right here. And it definitely, now I have plenty of room for these wires. So I'm happy I made the switch. And this one is just barely long enough. It only goes like that much past the hole, probably about 3-4 inches. But that's going to be mounted right to that piece that has a wire that goes back to the panel. So it's like a 4-way connector, almost like a 4-way wagyu. trying to be sneaky and put this in here without this. Okay. All right. One more. We got one more. All right, now we'll lock the bed down. It's a little bit tricky to put the screw through the extrusion hole. You gotta kind of like tighten them up a little bit at a time, I feel, on the next ones I'm gonna do. Because I'm gonna tighten each screw just a little bit at a time until they're all tight. These two are solidly on there. So this goes back to the panel. We have all of our wires here. And you know what? I'm gonna take a game break and get some iced tea. Not sponsored by Publix. It's really starting to look like the printer now. I'm real happy. It's been a lot of hard work. It's actually been kind of fun building this. A little bit irritating with the documentation and having to reach out to folks, and you know, luckily I'm able to phone a friend thanks to LTX. You know, what a really nice guy to be able to help me out and just kind of answer all my questions that I may have. Because when you try and reach out to Fysetc, good luck getting an answer. I reached out to them last week. I haven't received a response. Yeah, and actually, so I will give them this. I reached out to them on Saturday, so it was a weekend day. I was like, oh, maybe, you know, I'll get a response Monday. No response Monday. I was like, oh, maybe Tuesday. No response Tuesday. Today's Wednesday, so we'll see if they respond. But you would think having such incomplete documentation that it would be okay if they had incomplete documentation, but when you reached out, they were the first ones to like respond like minutes later to make sure that you were helped and that you know what's going on. Well, that's not the case. At least I've been waiting 3 days, and I'm not saying that that's, you know, a long time, but that is kind of long when you're considering what am I supposed to do if I was using this for work. You know, well, I got to figure it out. So, you know, rather than sit there and wait for their response, they can't just roll a response real quick. I mean, everybody's got a phone these days. They're all, you know, they don't even respond on their Discord. I had sent a message on the Discord. I had sent it through the Fysetc Venture XL page on Discord. No response. So maybe I'm asking questions that need to be figured out, or they're just very easy questions that I just don't know the answer to. And I haven't asked too many questions. Okay, so it's not like, oh, this guy's asking, you know, 50 questions and they're all stupid. No, it's not like that. I asked 1 or 2 questions that I turned out to find out the answer from the gentleman I've been asking things, and he responds right away. And they couldn't do that. I just paid all this money for this printer and they couldn't do that. But hey, who am I to say? That's their business model. So let's say that I'm happy to say we have beds installed. And we have some noodle soup over here. That'll be dinner. And I hope that all these cords fit into the panel the way that they're supposed to. Because as I said, it's not like I can ask a question. There we go. She's starting to look like a printer. So, I hope that helps. Obviously you saw, like I've said before, this is my first printer build. So you see that I put those ground screws on, didn't think about how long the cords were going to be, right? Is everybody that gets this going to be an expert printer builder? I don't know. you know, for me, I was advised not to get this from multiple people as a first build. But they did mention that as the documentation gets better, that was their main reason of why they didn't recommend it. Now, luckily, I have some technological experience that allows me to figure things out like this and understand. Like, I had to change all the lengths of the wires for the fans. I had to change the connectors, you know, all that stuff that I already kind of knew how to do. Some of the troubleshooting that I kind of know what to do. But they had mentioned that the documentation was the biggest reason that they did not recommend this as a first build. Luckily, those same people that said that have been responding to the questions that I do have. Just minor little questions like I had mentioned about the thermistor wires, the heater and the thermistor wires on the print head, right? I didn't know what they were, and I was told, oh, you can put them any which way on there. It doesn't matter because it's not polar. So, you know, certain things like that. But in my next video, I have all the cables right up top here, and my printer just stopped. It just finished printing in the other room for some of the stuff for that Z cable chain. I had to reprint. I actually redesigned and reprinted the little bracket that holds that Z chain in place up against the extrusion, like this, except over there, because they didn't have I couldn't find the file, at least on the GitHub. So I just recreated it identical to the dimensions that they provided in the bag, and I wanted it out of ABS, not PETG. So that was the biggest reason. Did I have to do that? Probably not, but I wanted to. Same thing with all the clips and everything else. Everything that I can reprint myself, I'm going to. Okay? But that wraps up this bed series. I'm not going to wire anything yet because it says just kind of leave them dangling back there. So we'll do that when we put the backpack on the side and go through all those steps. But hit that like button, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.